You know what's funny? The thing that hurts you the most is the same thing you keep trusting. That voice in your head, the one you call thinking. It never shuts up, does it? Even now, especially now. You sit there pretending you're listening, but half of you is already arguing with yourself. Planning, replaying, correcting. You've been doing that for years. You call it awareness. You call it intelligence. You call it being deep. Cute. What it really is a weapon you never learned how to put down. See, your mind is sharp. That's the problem. It notices patterns, connects dots, sees consequences before they happen. That's why it helped you survive. That's why you're still here. But survival and peace aren't the same thing. And somewhere along the way, the weapon turned inward. You don't lose sleep because of reality. You lose sleep because your mind refuses to let moments die. It drags old conversations back into the room, plays alternate versions, whispers what you should have said, over and over and over. Not because it's useful, because it's bored. That's the part nobody admits. A sharp mind hates stillness. It needs problems to chew on, even if it has to invent them. So it turns on you. It questions every decision, doubts every calm moment, turns silence into suspicion. You've felt that, haven't you? Those moments when things are finally stable and your mind starts looking for cracks. What if this goes wrong? What if they're lying? What if you mess this up? It never says stop. It says prepare. But preparation without threat is just anxiety wearing a suit. And you listen. Of course you do. Because this mind, it saved you before. So you trust it even when it's poisoning the well. Loyalty can be dangerous like that. You see, your mind doesn't care about happiness. It cares about control. It wants certainty, predictability, answers. And life doesn't offer those. So your mind fills the gaps with assumptions, with worst-case scenarios, with imaginary conversations that never happened. That's when it becomes the enemy. Not loud, not dramatic, just persistent. Like background noise you stopped noticing until it started steering. You've caught yourself hesitating because of it, delaying moves, second-guessing instincts that used to be clean, all because the mind needed one more calculation, one more check, one more rehearsal. And suddenly, you're stuck thinking about moving instead of moving. Here's the uncomfortable part. The mind that protects you is the same mind that keeps you small, because it remembers pain vividly, and it hates risk. So it reminds you of every time something went wrong, every embarrassment, every loss, not to help you heal, to keep you contained, safe, predictable, manageable. That's why growth feels dangerous. Not because it is, because your mind frames it that way. It whispers caution until courage sounds reckless. It calls discipline obsession. It labels stillness as stagnation. And you don't even notice the shift. You just feel tired. Tired of deciding. Tired of weighing options. Tired of carrying a brain that never clocks out. You're not weak. You're overarmed. Too much thinking, too little direction. A weapon swinging without a target. That's why the quiet scares you. Because silence is where the mind loses power. No stimulation, no arguments, no imaginary battles. Just presence. And presence makes the mind uncomfortable because it can't dominate it. So it distracts, replays, analyzes, anything but sits still. Here's what nobody tells you. You don't need a stronger mind. You already have one. You need distance from it. Not suppression, not control. Distance. Enough to notice when it's useful and when it's just making noise. Enough to hear a thought without obeying it. That's real power. Not silencing the mind, not fighting it. Letting it speak and choosing whether it gets to drive. Because when you stop letting every thought decide your next move, something changes. Decisions get simpler. Fear gets quieter. Action gets cleaner. Not easier, clearer. And clarity, that's when the weapon finally faces outward again. Funny thing is, once you see that, you start noticing how many people are ruled by their minds without ever realizing it. But that's another thought, for another quiet moment. There's a point where you stop noticing it's there, that voice. Not because it went quiet, because it started sounding familiar, like you. That's how it gets away with things. At first, it asked questions, reasonable ones. Are you sure? Did you think this through? Maybe wait a little. Nothing alarming, nothing obviously wrong. That's how it slips in. But over time, questions turn into commentary. Every choice comes with a review, every action with a critique, every calm moment with a warning label. And you don't argue back. Why would you? It sounds intelligent, measured, concerned, protective. You forget that protection can become a cage. You start noticing it during small things. You hesitate before speaking, not because you don't know what to say, but because your mind is already calculating outcomes. You pause before acting, not because you're unsure, but because 10 imaginary futures are competing for attention. You call it being careful. It's not. It's being overruled. The strangest part? The mind never tells you to stop completely. That would be too obvious. It just keeps adding conditions. After you're more prepared, once things settle down, when you're sure. Sure of what? It never finishes the sentence. So you wait, and waiting starts feeling responsible. Days turn into planning. Planning turns into delay. Delay turns into identity. You become the one who thinks things through. Cute label, heavy cost. Because while you're busy refining thoughts, life keeps moving without consulting you. And your mind notices that too, so it adjusts. It starts replaying past mistakes more vividly, sharpens embarrassment, repackages regret as wisdom. Remember what happened last time? Don't rush it again. Learn from this. It's convincing, because it's using your own memories as evidence. That's when the weapon really turns. Your sharpest tool starts cutting from the inside. You feel it in the body first. Tension that doesn't have a source. Fatigue that sleep doesn't fix. A constant low hum of unease. Not panic, not fear, just pressure. Like something's always about to go wrong if you don't stay alert. That's when the mind stops serving you and starts managing you. You don't choose reactions anymore. They arrive pre-approved. You don't decide what matters. The mind flags it for you. You don't even notice how much space it takes up until silence feels unfamiliar, uncomfortable, dangerous. Because silence means no commentary, no narration, no control. And control is what the mind craves most. Not truth, not peace, control. You've probably caught it lying before, just briefly. Moments where a fear didn't come true, where a worst-case scenario never arrived, where hesitation cost more than action would have. But the mind doesn't apologize. It reframes. Well, better safe than sorry. Could have been worse. At least you avoided risk. And you nod along, because arguing feels exhausting. That's the trap. A weapon that never shuts off eventually decides everything. Not loudly, not forcefully, through fatigue. You stop trusting instincts, stop listening to the body, stop acting on clarity when it appears, because clarity is quiet and the mind is loud. That's why your best moments don't come from thinking, they come from doing. Moments when the mind was too slow to interfere, when action slipped past analysis, when presence beat preparation. Those moments felt different, didn't they? Cleaner, simpler, real. And afterward, the mind rushed in to explain them, but it didn't create them. That's the difference you're starting to notice now. The mind is excellent at commentary, terrible at leadership. A weapon, yes, but one that needs direction. Otherwise, it turns on the one holding it. It doesn't happen all at once. There's no announcement, no dramatic shift. Just a moment where a thought shows up and you don't respond. Not because you're calm, not because you're enlightened, because you're tired. Tired of debating yourself. Tired of rehearsing futures that never arrive. Tired of carrying a mind that treats every moment like a threat assessment. So one thought passes, and you let it pass. No argument, no agreement, just space. That's when things get interesting. The mind notices. Of course it does. It throws another thought at you, a sharper one, more urgent. What if you're wrong? What if you regret this? What if this is a mistake? Normally, that's where you lean in, start analyzing, start fixing. But this time, you don't. You stay with the body instead, with the breath, with what's actually happening. And the thought? It doesn't disappear, it just loses volume. That's unsettling, because the mind is used to being obeyed. It's used to instant response, instant engagement. Silence feels like disrespect to it. Funny how authority reacts when it's ignored. The thoughts come faster now, not smarter, faster. They stack on top of each other, overlap, interrupt, trying to pull you back in. But you've tasted something else. Not peace, not happiness. Distance. Distance between you and the noise. And distance changes leverage. You start noticing how repetitive the mind really is, how often it recycles the same fears with new wording, how rarely it says anything new. That realization is quiet, but humiliating for the mind, because repetition isn't intelligence, it's habit, and habits lose power once they're seen. You stop chasing every thought because you realize most of them aren't instructions, they're echoes, old warnings, old embarrassments, old conditioning replaying itself. Not relevant, not current, just loud. So you stop answering, and something shifts. Decisions don't feel easier, they feel simpler. You act before the mind finishes its speech. You move before doubt finishes building its case. Not recklessly, cleanly. You trust the body again, the gut, the part of you that existed before narration. And the mind? It scrambles. It tries to label this as dangerous, calls it impulsive, irresponsible. But the words don't land the same. Because for the first time, the mind is reacting to you, not the other way around. You feel it in conversations. You don't over-explain anymore. You don't fill silence. You don't rush to justify instincts. And people notice, not because you changed your words, because your timing changed. You pause longer, speak less, move without rehearsal. That calm, it unsettles people. Because calm without explanation looks like confidence, and confidence without noise feels dangerous. That's when you realize the final trick. The mind kept you busy so you wouldn't notice your own authority, kept you thinking so you wouldn't act. But now, you've stepped just far enough back to see the weapon clearly. Sharp, powerful, but not in charge anymore. The strange part is, the voice never leaves. You might have expected that. Silence forever, peace on demand. That's not how it works. The thoughts still show up. They comment, they question. They just don't sit in the driver's seat anymore. At first, that feels unsettling. You're so used to being guided, even if the guidance was exhausting, that choosing without commentary feels naked. No narration, no approval, no warning bell ringing in advance, just action. And the mind doesn't like that. It keeps trying to step back in. You sure about this? This could go wrong. You didn't think this through. The difference now? You hear it without moving. You don't rush to correct the thought. You don't try to calm it down. You don't argue. You let it talk. And then you decide anyway. That's the shift. Not silence. Authority. The mind was never meant to lead. It's a tool, a sharp one, but tools don't choose direction. Hands do. You start noticing how clean things feel without constant internal debate. How much energy returns when you stop rehearsing life before living it. How decisions don't need to be perfect, just aligned. Aligned with what's real, not imagined, not predicted, not catastrophized. Real. You trust presence more than projection now. What's in front of you more than what might happen. That doesn't make you fearless. It makes you available. Available to act, to respond, to adapt, instead of freezing in thought loops. The mind still tries to scare you with the future, still pulls up the past like evidence. But those tricks don't carry the same weight, because you've seen the pattern. Fear speaks loudly. Clarity doesn't. Clarity just waits. And when you move from that place, things feel quieter. Not easier, not safer. Quieter. And quiet is where precision lives. That's when the weapon finally works the way it was supposed to. Outward, focused, controlled, not swinging wildly inside your own chest. You stop fighting your mind. You stop worshiping it too. You let it exist and choose anyway. That balance, that's rare. Most people are either ruled by their thoughts or running from them. Very few learn how to stand beside them without obeying. So no, your mind was never the enemy. It just needed limits. And once it has them, it becomes what it always was. A weapon, not the hand that pulls the trigger. Funny thing is, once you live like this, you notice how loud the world feels. But that's not your problem anymore.